Thanks for having me. My name is Mark Lee, and in this presentation, I will be discussing charter schools in Flushing.
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm Mark Lee. I go to Great Neck North High School in Great Neck. I'm a senior this year. Um, and my hobbies include swimming and playing water polo.
Great.
Okay. So the Flushing population is around 70% Asian, as of the 2010 census. And growing up in an Asian household myself, I know firsthand how important education is in Asian culture. And in Flushing, uh, this was achieved by getting good test scores, specifically on the SHSAT, and going to one of the specialized high schools in New York City. But now with the specialized high schools switching to a lottery-based admission system, many of the students who have worthy scores and grades aren't getting into specialized high schools. And one of my friends in Flushing, this just happened to her. She had a good SHSAT score that was able to get her into the specialized high school, but because of the lottery admissions, she wasn't admitted.
Okay, wait, can I ask you a quick question about that? What are you
Yeah,
talking? Are you talking about like Townsend Harris? Or are you talking about the Bronx, Stuyvesant,
yeah,
Brooklyn?
like Bronx, Stuyvesant,
So
Brooklyn Tech.
as
Yeah.
far as I know about that, that is still 100% based on test scores.
Still?
Yes, that has not changed. That needed a state law to change. And the state law has not changed about those specialized high schools. The ones, I'm talking about right now, the Brooklyn, Bronx, and Stuyvesant, that is still totally 100% based on the Shazat exam. What has changed is schools like Townsend Harris, that's the topic
Oh,
everybody
I
wants to
think that
do.
was what they were talking about then. I must have got it wrong.
So I'm just telling you this since you're doing a presentation, and that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just telling you so you should know, like when you talk about specialized high schools, like the quite different specialized high schools we're
Hmm.
talking about.
Right. Yeah. But I do have a solution for that, which is charter schools.
Okay.
Um, so what are charter
Mhm.
schools?
Mhm.
Charter schools are privately run schools that are publicly funded and supported, and they can be independently managed, or they can hire a charter school management organization to help them. They make their own curriculum and school rules, which is where the no excuses approach stems from. And that is where schools like heavily punish disruptive behavior and poor grades, and that has shown to drastically improve academic performance.
Could I ask you a quick question? When you say
Yeah,
destructive behavior, what do you mean by destructive behavior?
like d disturbing the classroom, and like getting poor grades. Yeah.
So you consider that to be destructive? Okay. Sorry, continue.
Um, yeah, and while many people are concerned about charter schools' impact on public schools' performance, according to years of test score data, charter schools don't actually affect public schools' performances.
But do you know why? And I'm sorry, I'm just because you're doing presentations with me. So do you know why when people say that charter school impact public school performance, what do they mean by that?
They mean like charter schools taking away all the good students from the public schools and basically using them, like taking them in for their good grades and educating them while leaving the poor students in the public schools. But yeah, many charter schools are actually use a lottery-based system to give everyone a fair chance.
Right. But I think sometimes when people talk about charter schools taking away from public schools, it's the fact that a lot of charter schools are on public school grounds that, taxpayers pay for that money, for the schools to,
Hmm.
the public school system. And when I think, and I'm giving you this information in case you want to do more research on this. So when people talk about charter schools taking over from public schools, it's about resources too. It's about resources that was
Yes.
taxpayers' money. Now that's going to a charter school instead of a public school that, everyone paid the tax money on.
Right, but it has been proven that charter schools don't negatively affect public schools in the way that people think they do, or at all actually.
Great. So what's the research for that?
There was a study done. I don't have the citation. I can find it for you, but it used test score data over the past few years of charter schools and public schools, and it found that there was no significant difference between the standardized test scores of public schools versus charter schools in the similar areas.
So you're saying charter schools offer as good of education as public schools. It's your point, right?
Yes, and they don't negatively affect the public schools.
Well, I think I'm trying to tell you, I know you're saying it doesn't negatively affect public schools in terms of the students going to charter schools, but I'm trying to tell you it's about resources. And
Yeah.
I think if you're doing a presentation and research on this, you should definitely think about the resources that's going to public schools that charter schools are using. And that's, when people talk about why is it they don't, like charter schools, that's one of the arguments.
Right, but with those resources that they are, I don't know, like stealing from the public schools, they are showing like greater effectiveness. For example, the elementary and middle school ELA and math New York State exams, specifically in New York City, the charter schools have greater performance compared to the public schools. And this statistic was taken from nyccharterschools.org. And
Sure.
right.
And you said there's charter schools in Flushing. Just out of curiosity, how many?
No, there's no chart like
There's
you can
no
see on
charter
this
schools.
map. There is no charter schools in Flushing, and that's what I'm here to advocate for. Specifically a charter school that is like of the level of a specialized high school or a private high school that very like students who are very advanced or excel can go to get a good education if they aren't admitted into a specialized high school.
Could I
That's
ask
basically what I'm arguing for.
Could I ask why is it you pick Flushing out of all the New York City schools?
Basically because first there's a severe underrepresentation of charter schools, as you can see on this map. In Flushing, there's none. There's a few in that Jamaica area, but most of them are concentrated in the Bronx and Brooklyn. And really, I'm only asking for one charter school for the Flushing area.
So could I ask, do you know what it takes to make a charter school happen?
Yeah, I'm gonna get into that later.
Great.
Yeah. But there also is a charter school cap, and it has currently been reached already of 250 charter schools in New York City. But I do have a workaround for that, and that is reviving zombie charters. The charter cap limits the number of charter schools issuable to operate within the city to 250, but around 20 of them belong to schools that are no longer operating. So if we can reuse these unused license, which are called zombie charters, we can construct more charter schools in New York City without going over that cap.
Okay.
But in order to fund these charter schools, we have to pay both operational and capital costs. Operational expenses include like day-to-day costs for running the schools, such as utilities and maintenance, and capital expenses include longer-term services for the schools, such as construction, renovation, and like major repair costs. And a main struggle for many charter schools is how to pay for these costs. So first, Charter schools can find the funds to operate through per pupil facilities payments, state and federal grants, donations, loans, and the method I'm going to be getting into, issuing municipal bonds. So municipal bonds are issued by states, cities, counties, and other governmental entities to raise money to build roads, schools, and other projects for the public good. Since most communities can't afford to finance large-scale projects with just the resources they have on hand. And usually a local government would have to, for example, raise property taxes to fund such a project. But municipal bonds can help finance these projects without raising property taxes. And I have a video here that gets into a lot of detail on the issuing of municipal bonds. Mind if I play it?
Of course.
Sorry to interrupt. There's actually no sound from the video. I think
Oh,
you need
there's
to
no
enable
sound?
sound. Yeah.
How would I do that? Oh, share sound. There we go. Can you hear?
No.
Many people purchase municipal bonds
You can't hear
Oh,
it?
no, I got it. Yep, I hear it.
Okay.
as part of their overall investing strategy. But there's quite a story behind why they're created, how they work, and who's involved. The municipal bond process can be a complicated one, so we'll try to simplify it for you. Our story begins by paying a visit to Anytown, USA. Anytown is a great place to live. There's a thriving cultural scene, good schools, and a strong business environment. It's no wonder that many families have moved here. But with lots of families now living in Anytown, the schools are bursting at the seams. The mayor, town council, and school district leaders all agree that a brand new school is needed, in addition to expansions to some of the existing school buildings. But at an estimated cost of $30 million, how will the town pay for it? The town leaders come up with a plan to raise these funds by issuing bonds. This means that Anytown will borrow money from investors with the expectation of paying them back with interest over time. The people who will actually use the school building in the future will also be the folks paying for it. Anytown will use property tax revenues to repay the investors, backed by the full faith and taxing authority of the town. This is called a general obligation municipal bond. But things can't move forward just yet. Voter approval of the proposal is required. So a bond proposal is developed and put on the ballot as part of an election. The votes are tallied and the proposal is passed. At this point in our story, some new characters enter the scene: the underwriter, the bond counsel, and in most cases, the financial advisor. The financial advisor helps Anytown make decisions regarding the bond issue and works with the underwriter to determine pricing and distribution to investors. The underwriter acts as a liaison between the town and potential investors when bringing the bond issue to market. An underwriter can be chosen in two ways: via competitive sale or negotiated sale. The leaders of Anytown decide to go the competitive route and put the bond issue out to bid. This is where the bond counsel, Smith & Jones law firm, enters the picture. Smith & Jones prepares the bond documents, including the official statement, and since Anytown has chosen the competitive route, a notice of sale. The official statement contains all of the information a prospective investor needs in order to invest in Anytown's bond issue. The underwriter will review the official statement and decide whether to bid on the bond. The bond counsel also writes the legal opinion, which provides justification in law for the tax-exempt status of the issue and ensures that the bonds are valid and binding obligations for Anytown. The firm does not comment on the investment merit of the bond issue. Now that the legal opinion is in place, the notice of sale can be completed and posted. ABC Investment Bank sees the ad and is interested in underwriting, with the ultimate goal of buying the muni bond issue from Anytown and reselling it to investors. Before submitting a bid, however, they would like to invite other investment banks to participate with them. So they decide to form a syndicate and act as the syndicate manager. Forming a syndicate will allow the bank to share the marketing and distribution duties, as well as some of the financial risk of underwriting the bond issue. Two banks, JKL and XYZ, agree to join ABC Syndicate, and they submit a bid. Back at Anytown Town Hall, the bid is reviewed, along with several others up for consideration. After much deliberation, the bond issue is awarded to the syndicate formed by ABC Investment Bank, because they turned in the lowest borrowing cost. The syndicate goes to work as the underwriter, reaching out to individual and institutional investors to determine their interest in purchasing the bonds. Now, let's turn our attention to another key player in our story, the investor. Mary Jones is an Anytown resident who has decided to purchase some municipal bonds for her portfolio. She's heard about the new bond offering and is curious. As a potential investor, Mary knows how important it is to be informed about her investment options. She obtains a copy of the bond's preliminary official statement from her brokerage firm and examines the terms of the bond and the financial situation of Anytown. After a thorough review, Mary decides to purchase $10,000 worth of the bonds. She submits an indication of interest to her brokerage firm. Entering an order only makes Mary eligible for an allocation of bonds. It is not a guarantee. The offering may be oversubscribed, and she could wind up with a portion of the bonds requested or none at all. Once the Anytown bonds are allocated by the underwriting syndicate, Mary will receive a notification. She then confirms her indication of interest in order to exercise the purchase opportunity. The full allocation of muni bonds she requested are then placed in her account. Finally, Mary receives a written confirmation of the transaction and a copy of Anytown's final official statement, which includes the final yields on the bond issue. So, our investor's transaction is complete. But what's going on back in Anytown? ABC provides Anytown with the proceeds of the bond sale. It's important to note that these funds can only be used for the projects that the voters approved in the bond election. A groundbreaking ceremony is held, and construction on the new school officially begins. Congratulations, Anytown, USA.
Yeah, so I'm sure building a charter school in Flushing will make many Asian parents happy and provide a high quality education for those who couldn't get in to one of the specialized high schools. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you take my idea into consideration.